our lives, and we say, Amen. So some of you may know this. I'm apparently going to stand on this side. Some of you know this. This is my new, I have a goal, which is to read a biography, really I've been listening to, a biography of every single president. And it's taking me a while. I'm probably a year and a half in, and I'm on number 5, so it's quite the process. They're tomes, some of them. But it's been fun, and one of the things that really sticks out to me, especially, I'm still in the founding fathers stage, and they were all just so committed to what they saw as doing the right thing, what they saw as creating a just society. Now, they had their flaws. There were some significant populations they were ignoring, but they saw themselves as dedicated to justice. And while they had their flaws, while they had their rivalries, no matter what, they were overall, most of the time, trying to build a better country. And because they were committed to justice, it makes me think of Abraham, our Jewish founding father, if you will. And in this week's Torah portion, Vayeira, we're continuing the Abraham story. It begins with 3, it's either God, or it's 3 men, or it's 3 angels coming to Abraham to announce the birth of his son. And then God says that God will destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham argues with God about that. Then we get the birth of Isaac, the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael, and it ends with the binding of Isaac. Now, before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, as I just mentioned, God tells Abraham what God's going to do. God says there are wicked people in these 2 cities, so I'm going to destroy them. And Abraham says, wait a minute. What if there are 50 innocent people there in the city? Will you still destroy them? And God says, no, okay, fine. If there are 50, I won't. Okay, what about 45? Okay, fine, no. How about 40? Fine. And they keep going all the way down to 10. If there are 10 innocent people, God will not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, they don't have 10, so God does it. But what fascinates me is that Abraham is willing to step up and willing to do what he sees as just, what he sees as doing the right thing. And so I see us, humans, Jewish people, that we need to pursue justice, just like Abraham, right? We are duty bound to make the world a better place. It's why we have the Social Action Committee here at BJC. It's why Judaism emphasizes tikkun olam and tzedakah and chesed, loving kindness, all of these things. And also, like our American ancestors, right? We need to make our country a better place. And many of us did just that this week, right? By voting. Hopefully we voted. Maybe we even donated to different candidates. And the thing is that even though the election isn't over, our fight for justice, I think, still continues, right? Not only down in Georgia, but also beyond into this, this next session of Congress, into the 2024 elections, local elections, beyond. But as we continue to fight for justice, I want us to follow Abraham a little more than we follow our founding fathers, because our founding fathers did not always get along. Sometimes they butted heads, right? If you've followed the show Hamilton, you know all about it, or if you're a history buff, or really anything from history, right? We know Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, they didn't quite see eye to eye. I actually just discovered that James Madison and Hamilton also almost dueled. They didn't, but they almost fought each other. Of course, there's John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, who were best friends and then hated each other during their presidencies and then became good friends again. But the idea is that they didn't always see the humanity in each other, right? They didn't always see each other as oh yeah, we disagree, fine, but let's go build this country. They said, sure, I want to build the country my way, you're going to build the country your way, and we're going to fight and fight and fight. We're not going to see each other as friends, as humans, as people trying to do the right thing. And contrast that with Abraham. There's this great story about Abraham who he's very hospitable. This is one of Abraham's traits. In the very beginning of the Torah portion, he's sitting there. It's the hottest part of the day. He had just been circumcised, and yet he sees these three people, and he sprints to go meet them. And there's a story about him being also hospitable. A stranger's walking by one day, and he says, "Come on in, here, have some food, put your feet up." And the guy does so, and right before he's about to eat, the stranger pulls out a little statue, a little idol, and starts praying to it. And Abraham, he's Mr. One God over here, right? And so he flips out, he kicks out the stranger, he says, "What are you doing? You can't do this in my house," and gets rid of him. And then God booms from the heavens and says, "Abraham, I've been putting up with this guy for 25 years, and you can't put up with him for one day?" And so Abraham turns around, and he rushes, he goes all searching until he finds the guy, and he brings him back in, and he takes care of him. Because finally, at the end, he saw what he should have seen, which is, okay, I disagree with this guy. We don't see eye to eye on God, on how to live our lives, but he's still a human being. He's still worthy of respect and love and my generosity. And so I'm thinking a lot about that with this election season, right? That we're post the elections, unless any of you are Georgia residents, but or something else that's going on, right? There's still elections to be held, and our nation is divided. So many times this week, people have told me, "Wow, there's just so much hate and division and rivalry that's going on." And so I'm thinking about both of these concepts, right? That on the one hand, we of course need to fight for what we see as just and right. I'm thinking of things like LGBTQ rights, right? A woman's right to choose. These things that are important to me, that are Jewish values, I'm not going to just set them aside. And at the same time, how do I also see the humanity in people whom I might otherwise see as other, right? Whom I might otherwise see as the other side, the enemy, the bad guys, whatever it is. How do I still see that they are human, even when I totally disagree with them? And I think Abraham, much more than our founding fathers, shows us the way. At the end of that story where he takes the guy and brings him back, even though they don't see, they're not on the same page about anything. And yet he invites him in, he shows compassion. So my hope for us, my prayer for us is that we do our best to embody Abraham, that we welcome those with whom we disagree, that we show generosity even when it's really hard to see them as worthy of dignity and respect, that we do so anyway. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. And we say, Amen. We now turn to page 282, Aleinu L'Shabeach, which prays for a more perfect world, which prays for a more just world, and I think a world